Cool. So thanks again, everyone, for joining today online. Usually we take these tours in person, but basically due to circumstances surrounding COVID, there's still restrictions here on site. So we're not currently allowing visitors on site. But it's still great that we can offer these online tours. So yeah, thanks for joining. So my name's Jared. I'm the Waste Education Officer at Resource Recovery Group. And Teresa is also here. She's the Communications Manager. She'll be assisting with the tour today. Basically, the way it's set up, we will do a bit of a presentation and then we'll do a live virtual tour component, walking around the site and checking out the different facilities. So just a bit of background about Resource Recovery Group. So Resource Recovery Group, we're a local government authority representing 3 councils in the southern region of Perth. So that's the City of Melville, the City of Fremantle and the town of East Fremantle. The Resource Recovery Group, we're responsible for maximising resource recovery and minimising climate impact too. We were the first regional council area to roll out the 3-bin FOGO system in the Perth metro area as well. So that was a few years ago now. So FOGO means food organics and garden organics. And basically that bin, it's a 3rd bin that's being introduced across Perth. By 2025, all Perth councils will be on this 3-bin system. So we'll go into a bit more detail though in a bit. So Resource Recovery Group, this is the Canning Vale Centre you can see. So just a bit of a, oh, sorry guys. Can you see it now? All right, just bear with us a second, guys. Can you see it now? Cool. All right, that's the one I wanted to show. Cool. So this is the site map just overlooking the Canning Vale Centre. And you can see the 4 main facilities that we have here. So the site's about 20 years old and it cost about $100 million to put together. And you can see on the left-hand side, we've got our FOGO processing facility. So this is up in action today where we do the pre-processing of our FOGO stream. We've also got our waste audit facility where we can conduct waste audits. We can have a closer look at what residents are putting in their bins, hopefully the right thing. And we've also got our green waste processing facility where we do the chippering and mulching of larger green organic waste that comes through. That's often collected during the Vergeside green organics collections. And then last but not least, at the bottom, you can see the materials recovery facility. So that's where all the action happens with recycling, and we separate the commingled recycling stream. All right, has that gone to the next slide? Great. So I mentioned before, there's a couple of different bin systems happening in Perth at the moment. In fact, there's 3. So you can see at the top there, the classic 2-bin system, which has a general waste bin with the dark green lid and the yellow recycling bin. You can see on the right-hand side the diversion rates from landfill as well. And the typical recovery rate on a 2-bin system is 33%. If we go down to the next group, so the 3-bin garden organic system, so that's introducing a 3rd bin with a lime green lid, and that's for your larger green organic waste. So it's just, for garden waste that goes in that bin. So some councils have introduced that next bin, but it's just for garden waste. But you're saving that garden waste from ending up from going to landfill, which is great. And you can see on the right, there's a higher diversion rate from landfill, up to 48%. And then right at the bottom, we've got our 3-bin food organics and garden organics system. So as well as separating your garden waste in that 3rd bin, you can also add your food scraps and separate that from going to landfill, which is great. And of course, that has a higher diversion rate from landfill. So basically, eventually by 2025, all councils around Perth will have rolled out this new 3-bin system, and it will be the 3-bin FOGO system. And you can see, this is just a bit of an overview of how the 3-bin FOGO system works. So on the left-hand side, the recycling bin stays the same. We just want our steel and aluminium cans. unshredded paper and cardboard, plastic bottles and containers, and glass bottles and jars. And then your FOGO bin, you can see in the middle, that's for things like your food scraps, garden waste, but even things that you typically wouldn't put in a home compost bin, you can put in the FOGO bin. So things like cooked food, bones, dog poo, kitty litter can all go in the FOGO bin because it goes to an industrial composter. So it's safe to do that. And then on the right, you can see the general waste bin with the red lid. And that's the things like nappies and hygiene products and general waste and the like. And so the reason why we're moving to this 3-bin FOGO system, you can see at the bottom, it's all a part of the state government's waste avoidance and resource recovery strategy. So for councils to achieve a recovery rate of 70% of waste by 2025, they need to roll out this 3-bin FOGO system. That's how they can achieve that rate, and 75% by 2030. And of course, councils transitioning to waste to energy will also help achieve this recovery rate. So waste to energy, that's for the general waste stream. So things that can't be recycled or composted. Oops. So just a bit of an overview on recycling. When it comes to curbside recycling, we only want these 5 things placed in the bin. So you can see the list there: paper, cardboard, glass, plastic containers and bottles, aluminium and steel cans. Items that you typically use in your kitchen, in your bathroom or your laundry. And of course, we want them clean, dry, loose and empty with the lids off as well. Hopefully today you will learn, I mean, there's lots of different items that can be recycled, but you've just always got to think about the process involved and the journey involved for that item. So, you know, there's items that can be recycled, but not through the curbside system, such as batteries, for instance. If you want to recycle batteries, you need to take them to a drop-off point where they can be safely recycled. But we'll talk about that in a bit more detail soon. Oh, yeah, thanks, Teresa. So, yeah, just going back to that question about cleaning containers and cans. So typically, a quick rinse is fine, you know, as long as you can get as much food residue or sauce away from that bottle or container or jar as possible. So for me, I mean, I don't have a dishwasher at home. So when we're finished washing our plates and cutlery, I just use the leftover dishwater that I have there, and that does the job for me. Some people will place, you know, jars and containers in their dishwasher if they've got space for it. At the end of the day, we look at recycling materials as products. You know, we want to be able to sell them to our markets for reprocessing. So if they've got food scraps or food residue on them, no one's going to want to buy them like that. And they can contaminate other recyclables. So I'm just going to check the chat there. Thanks, Joe. So cardboard, milk and juice containers are okay. Yeah, so as long as they're not lined with or silver lined. So typically, you know, items like long life milk containers aren't okay to put in the recycling bin. And the reason being is the mixed materials. So you've got that silver lining for those long life containers. There's the hard plastic on top and then the outer liquid paperboard. It's 3 different materials. If all of those materials could be separated, they are recyclable. But basically our processes don't allow for that separation. So long life milk containers would need to go in the general waste bin at this point. But yeah, cardboard milk containers or juice boxes, juice containers that aren't lined with silver, they're fine to go in the recycling bin. No worries. All right, Len, so not other plastics. Yeah, so basically we've simplified things in terms of the plastic categories. Rather than going off the number system, which gets a bit complicated, we've got 2 basic categories that we use now: hard plastics and soft plastics. So your hard plastic bottles and containers that you would use in the kitchen, laundry or bathroom, they're fine to go in your yellow bin. Soft plastics are things like wrappers or bread bags, things like that. Anything you can sort of scrunch up into a ball, they need to be taken to Coles and Woolies to be recycled through the Red Cycle program. If not, you'd place them in your general waste bin. Things like polystyrene can't go in the yellow bin. It'll just burst into a million pieces when it comes to our facility. So there are drop-off points around Perth if you want to recycle your polystyrene. Otherwise, in terms of the curbside system, polystyrene would go in the red bin or the general waste bin. So this is inside our education centre. You can see there's a viewing platform just overlooking the materials recovery facility, but I'm going to show a video now so you better visualise the process. Just bear with me.
Not so long ago, waste like this was simply dumped into holes in the ground as landfill. And although steel cans and paper may rot away quite quickly, a plastic water bottle like this can take 500 years to decompose, making landfill a long-term environmental nightmare.
Today, we're a lot smarter about recycling our household waste. And here at the state-of-the-art materials recovery facility in Canning Vale, around 40,000 tonnes of waste a year is saved from landfill and put to good use.
How efficient the recycling process is starts with you. Thanks to the technology you'll see later, plenty of things can be recycled. But you can help by sorting your recyclables properly. The first rule is don't bag your recyclable waste. Just put items loose in the bin. Rinse bottles, cans and containers and take the lids off jars and bottles. This helps with the sorting of different materials later on. The contents of 22,000 yellow-topped bins arrive here every day. That's around 150 tonnes of recyclable waste, which has to be sorted into categories. And all you need to do that is a $20 million machine like this one. The process starts with the waste being loaded onto a conveyor where it's hand sorted to remove anything hazardous or tied in a plastic bag. Wrong. Then a series of giant spinning rollers separates cardboard and newspaper from the waste stream. Heavier items fall through the gaps to be sorted separately. Any plastic that's got mixed up with the newspaper is removed by hand. And then the reclaimed paper is pressed and baled into large blocks, ready to be sent offshore for reprocessing. Because glass breaks easily, it can be separated using this rotating sieve or trommel. The small pieces of glass fall through the holes and are piled up for collection. This pile of glass, once it's been ground into finer particles, will end up as road base. Before the rest of the waste can be recycled, sorters make sure all paper, card and glass has been removed. Then it's the job of some pretty high-tech machinery to sort out the rest. Steel, like this can, is easily separated because it's magnetic, but plastic's harder to deal with. This optical eye uses a laser beam to identify the three main types of plastic. PET, used in soft drink bottles, high-density polyethylene used in milk bottles, and mixed plastic containers. It sorts them by firing a jet of compressed air, which sends the item into the right collection bin.
Most drink cans are aluminium, which can't be picked up by a magnet. This machine uses an electric eddy current to turn the aluminium into a temporary magnet and quickly separates the aluminium from the plastic.
Now everything's been correctly sorted, what happens to it? Well, aluminium can be reused to make new cans, car parts, or electronics. Hi, Mum. Yeah, I'm busy at the moment. Plastics can be turned into a wide range of things, including clothing, thread, bottles, or furniture. And paper and cardboard comes back as office paper, new cardboard boxes, hand towels, or newspaper. This amazing machinery processes 40,000 tonnes of waste a year and recovers around 85% of materials for recycling.
By the year 2020, the Waste Authority of WA is hoping much less waste will go to landfill. And that's achievable if we all do our bit to help.
All right. So yeah, notice at the end of the video, he was talking about the 2020 recovery target. So we did achieve that target of 65% recovering our waste by that date, which is great. But the next recovery target rate is 70% by 2025. So we are well on the way to achieving that recovery rate, which is good. So yeah, let us know if you have any questions about what you've just seen. About the recycling process, feel free to pop it in the chat. For those that were watching the video, let me know if you can recall, there was 3 recycling rules that they mentioned in the video towards the beginning when it comes to sorting your recycling at home. Let's see who is watching. Pop it in the chat. Jackie. So did he say we send our paper offshore for something? Yeah. So at the moment, a lot of the infrastructure for reprocessing recycling is located offshore or overseas. That is all about to change, though, with the waste export bans that have been announced. The federal government and the state government are actually putting in funding to more local infrastructure projects within the country. So basically, we will start to see, a plastic processing facility being built in WA. There'll be a paper pulp factory being built in WA and a glass refinery as well. So these are projects that have already been announced. They've been approved. So this is really exciting. But I'll talk more in depth about the waste export bans later on. So that's for most of our recycling. Things like glass, we do process that here in WA. We use that for, we also reprocess that here in WA. We use that for road base currently. Our mixed plastics are currently being sent to South Australia as well, because that's where the infrastructure is. Thanks, Natalie. So in terms of, the video, getting a link to the video. Oh, great. I think Teresa's just going to send a link through. Otherwise, it is on our YouTube channel, Recycle Right YouTube, and it is on our Recycle Right website as well. You can find it there, as well as other videos that we've uploaded. Jackie, so why can't we put broken glass into the yellow bin? You can actually put broken glass into the yellow bin. So when it comes to drinking glasses or glass jars, glass bottles, even if they're broken, they can go in the yellow bin because it all gets smashed here at our facility and crushed. And then we use that as construction sand and use it for road base. So yeah, smashed glass is fine to go loosely in your yellow bin. Len, so glass can't be reused for bottles, etc. Still not quite circular. Are there plans to reuse glass for bottles? Yeah, absolutely. So when it comes to the curbside recycling, you noticed everything is mixed in together. including the glass and the smashed glass. So when it comes to recycling glass to use again to make into bottles, there are different types of glass. So a program like Containers for Change, so for anyone's that collecting their bottles or cans for the 10-cent refund, they have a different system where they're able to separate those different types of glass. You know, you've got your brown glass, your green glass, and your clear glass. And there's an opportunity there to then repurpose that glass. It's a cleaner stream, cleaner way of recycling. And there's potential to recycle those glass bottles back into glass bottles. In terms of the curbside recycling, everything's mixed in together. And it comes through the MRF. We separate the streams, but all that glass is mixed in together. It'd be very, very difficult to separate all the different types of glass. So that's why it's just used for road base at this point. Awesome. So yeah, Teresa sent through those links. So yeah, be sure to check them out. Thanks, guys. Thanks for the questions. So the recycling rules that I mentioned before, you know, obviously to clean and rinse jars and containers before putting them into the yellow bin, but also to take the lids off. It's really important. We'd like people to take lids off bottles and containers. There's a few reasons behind this. As lids are removed, that will allow any liquid to leak out before it comes to our MRF. But also if the lids are left on, and when it comes to baling them up, we can actually, there can actually be problems associated with that if the lids are still left on. So basically it's a logistical matter. We can't bail up as many containers if the lids are still on because of all that trapped air. The lids can also burst off as projectiles, which isn't too fun if anyone's standing in the way. So yeah, we prefer those lids to be removed. If you want to recycle the lids, the hard plastic lids, you can take them to places like Containers for Change. Otherwise, unfortunately, they're too small for the curbside system. So you might have seen in that video, the glass pile, when they separate the glass, you might have seen bits of plastic within that glass. So things like, you know, plastic cutlery and straws and all the plastic bottle lids, that's where it gets mixed up. So then it's classed as contamination. So basically any hard plastic item that's smaller than the size of your hand, it's too small for the yellow bin. It would have to go in the general waste bin, or if there's a drop-off point for that item, you can take it there, like the lids. So hard plastic lids, you can take, that are smaller than the size of your hand, you can take to Containers for Change for recycling. Thanks, Natalie. So our milk bottle lids, the same type of plastic as milk bottles. It was suggested to me to squash the milk bottle lid into the bottle so that it doesn't fall out of the MRF. Does that work? Not quite. It is a slightly different type of plastic, and it is a different color as well. Especially when it comes, it's more noticeable for, say, your PET bottles. So a clear plastic water bottle, for instance, it'll have a different colored lid, and it's often HDPE colored lid as well. So yeah, we prefer not, the messaging is not to squash your containers with the lid on. You know, feel free to, if you want to squash containers, that's fine, but just make sure the lids are taken off. Then thanks. Yeah. Okay. So the metal lids. All right. So keep in mind everything that I was just talking about then was for hard plastic lids. When it comes to metal lids, the answer is different because here at the facility, we have lots of magnets and it's very easy for us to separate metal, including the metal lids. So things like metal beer lids, beer bottle lids, or jar lids are fine to go loosely in your yellow bin because we can easily separate them with the magnets on site. So yeah, they're fine to go loosely in the yellow bin. When it comes to aluminium lids, and a way to tell, you know, often a wine bottled lid, a wine lid is aluminium. So aluminium's a bit trickier because it's not naturally magnetic. So you saw in the video, we have to use that eddy current machine to separate the aluminium. The aluminium lids won't make it through to that eddy current machine if they're placed in the bin loosely. So if you want to make sure that your aluminium lids are recovered, the best thing to do is to pop them in an aluminium can and then crush the can closed. That is fine to do so. Jackie, so Bottle Top Hill are collecting the lids in Melville, which makes it easy for people to collect and take. Does that happen in other suburbs? Yeah, great shout out to Bottle Top Hill. We support Bottle Top Hill. It's a great cause. The answer in terms of other suburbs or other councils doing that, it's not always the case. There might be other drop-off points around Perth, but that is a community-run pop-up Bottle Top Hill. So yeah, it's a lot of hard work and dedication that goes into that. So I forget which church that's held at. If anyone knows the church, please pop that in the chat. But it's every second Saturday in Melville at a local church where that, I think it's near Applecross somewhere. We can find out the church. I'll pop it in the wrap-up email anyway. Then how do we handle the small ring of plastic left on the bottle after the lid is removed? So that small ring of plastic, that's fine to leave on the lids. That it's minimal contamination. We can allow for a little bit of contamination on site. We don't require residents to be snapping that off or breaking that off. That's fine to leave on. That gets removed further down the line during the shredding and the cleaning process of the plastic. Yeah, so in terms of dropping off your lids, there are other drop-off points around Perth and community group-led drop-off points as well. I often just give a shout out to Containers for Change, because if you're already collecting your bottles and cans for that program, you can also take your lids there. So that's 2 birds and 1 stone. It's less driving around Perth looking for that drop-off point. You won't get a 10-cent refund for the lids, but they have partnered up with a local operator in Perth called Claw Environmental, which are based in Welshpool, and they actually process the lids on site and they use it for construction material today, which is really cool. So thanks, Susie. We take our plastic lids to Precious Plastics in Margaret River. Awesome. Oh, and thanks, Jackie. So yeah, Bottle Top Hill is at 56 McLean Street in Melville every second Saturday of the month. Awesome. Cool. All right, so we might just do a quick switch over with our cameras, and we'll get into the virtual tour component now. So just bear with us a second. But feel free to keep the questions coming as we're walking around site. Cool. All right. Hello. Okay, I'm on this camera now. So as you can see here, we're inside the Education Centre. These are some items that have actually come through our materials recovery facility, believe it or not. You know, we've had things like aerosol cans come through. We've had things like car batteries come through. You can see there's a helium canister here, electric bike battery that actually blew up while it was here, as well as things like meat cans that came through, tied plastic bags. So these are items that in terms of the hazardous waste items you can see here, obviously they should never go in your curbside bins because they're very dangerous. They can start fires. So even things like your aerosol cans, things like batteries or mobile phones, they should never be placed in the curbside bins because they can start fires. So even in the backs of the waste truck, there's a big compactor that's squeezing all the waste together. So all this aerosol can needs is a bit of pressure and then it can combust. And then what's in the back of a waste truck? You know, lots of paper and cardboard. It doesn't take long for the fire to start. Likewise at a materials recovery facility. So you might have heard about the Cleanaway facility that unfortunately burnt down a couple of years ago. So that's another recycling facility in Perth. It was most likely an aerosol can or a lithium-ion battery, rechargeable battery, where a front-loader truck might have driven over the top of one, and that starts your fire. So luckily, Cleanaway, they're back up and running now, 2 years later. But when that happened, we actually took on a lot of Cleanaway's council's contracts because we had the capacity for it here at this facility. But the point being, household hazardous waste needs to be taken to a drop-off point, so your nearest transfer station or your nearest recycling centre. We do have a great resource, Recycle Right. It's an app you can download on your phone or a website you can visit where you can type in, if you're wondering, where do I take my aerosol cans to, or where can I take these items to, you can use the Recycle Right resource and find my nearest option, and it will let you know where to take those items to. But we'll talk about that later on in the tour. All right. So obviously it's Saturday today, so we're not currently running this facility, but you can see out here the tip floor just to the right that you would have seen in the video. So at the moment, we're processing about 100 tonnes of recycling a day here at our site in Canning Vale. When the Cleanaway facility had burnt down, we increased our load to about 300 tonnes a day, and we were running this facility from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. each day. We're currently running this facility 6 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday to Thursday at the moment. You can see here these 3 different bunker conveyor belts. So this is where we'd normally be processing our paper. So we've got our mixed paper stream on the left, corrugated cardboard, or just your cardboard would be in the middle, and then old newspaper on the right-hand side. So they're the 3 different paper streams. But often what happens, you might be able to see the drums at the bottom there, and there's bits of strapping that's wrapped up around the machine. So that's why we don't want things like ropes or hose pipes being placed in the in the recycling bin, because they can end up at this facility, get caught and jammed up around the machines. So in terms of your hose pipes, old hose pipes or ropes, it's better to just cut them up into smaller pieces and they can go into the general waste bin. Cool. So basically, once the paper comes out of these bunkers, we do 1 stream at a time. So if we're doing mixed paper, all the mixed paper is coming out. It'll travel up this conveyor belt. You can see it on an angle just there. And then it goes to our paper baler where it's all squeezed together. And you can see on the left-hand side, some of the paper bales actually, where it ends up before it's sent for reprocessing to be made into new products. Cool. All right. So I think we'll head on outside then. Of course, it's very quiet here today. Usually we have lots of trucks coming on site, lots of recycling trucks and FOGO trucks, of course. So this is just outside the materials recovery facility that you can see. You can see those 2 big doors on the right-hand side. So they're closed at the moment, obviously, but that's where the trucks enter and exit the facility. So in terms of our recovery rate at this recycling facility, we're recovering 85% of all of the recycling that comes through this facility. That remaining 15%, we class that as residual waste, and that's waste that goes to landfill at the moment. So it's quite a strong recovery rate that we have here. Cool, and these are our fire water tanks you can see. So we're well prepared in the event of an emergency. If a big fire does start, we've got a big water supply here. So we haven't had any major fires recently, which is great. So the last major fire that was had here was about 10 years ago. And unfortunately, yeah, they had to rebuild this facility. So yeah, the fires do happen. That's why it's so important to take hazardous waste to a drop-off point around Perth. And of course, you know, it's better to make it convenient for yourself, you know, in terms of things like aerosol cans or batteries. If you just set up a box or a little tub at home, if you've got the space maybe in the garage, you know, collect them up, and maybe once or twice a year you can take it to a drop-off point around Perth.
Talk about the weighbridge.
Yeah. So you can see the weighbridge in action at the moment. Let this truck pass. So this truck is just about to exit the facility using our weighbridge. All of the trucks that enter and leave the facility, we weigh, we measure and record the data. So we know how much waste is coming into the facility and how much waste is leaving the facility, and how much waste we're recovering or how much waste is going to landfill. So with all of the waste streams combined on site, so that just for our site, that's recycling, FOGO waste and the larger green organic waste. We're recovering 85% of all of those materials. And we're also diverting about 100,000 tonnes of waste from ending up in land. So it's quite a strong recovery rate for a local government authoritative. We're going to check out the green waste processing facility now. So most of the green waste you can see here that's piled up, it's been collected from our council's Birdside Green Organics collections. It's taken to this facility where we shred it all down. We're actually using the facility today, which is really cool. You can see it in action. So currently we're using a shredder just to the left. You can see the front loader picking up green waste. So we're also next to Jandakot Airport. But basically at this facility, we just do all the shredding. We shred all the green waste down, and then we sell that product to another company called Rich Grow. So Rich Grow's facility are based in Jandakot, where they do the further processing, pasteurizing, so basically killing off any weed seeds that might be present in the green waste, and they make high quality mulch products. So if you've been to the likes of Bunnings, you've probably seen some Rich Grow products there.
And the general public can bring this.
Yeah, so it's not just the council Birdside Green Organics collections that come here. Members of the public can also drop off green waste here. I think it costs about $30 for a trailer load of green waste to drop off. And of course, we get lots of gardeners and contractors that come through to drop off green waste as well. So at the moment, we're processing about 12,000 tonnes of green waste a year at this facility, but we have the capacity to process 36,000 tonnes a year. When it comes to your larger green organic waste and putting it on the curbside for the collections, we don't want them to be any bigger or any longer than 1.5 metres, and we don't want them to be any thicker than 300 millimetres in diameter. Occasionally, we do get those larger green organics coming through, the oversized pieces. So our shredder's too small, it can't handle those pieces. So we basically keep those larger green organics, the oversized pieces at the back of our facility. And then maybe once or twice a year, we'll get an external contractor out with a bigger shredder to take care of those oversized pieces. So we're actually recovering 100% of all of the green waste that comes through this facility as well. Yeah, let us know if you got any questions about green waste. Pop them in the chat. I'll ask a question now while we're walking over to the community garden. I think I mentioned it maybe at the start, but if anyone knows where you can take your soft plastics to be recycled in Perth, let us know. Where do you take them to? So things like your bread bags or your chip packets.
Red cycle through Woolies and Coles from Natalie.
Thanks, Natalie. Awesome. And this picnic table you can see here is actually made out of soft plastics and bread bags, chip packets. So Red Cycle is a program that's run all across the country through Coles and Woolies. So they do the collection, they collect all the soft plastics, and they've partnered up with another processor based in Victoria called Replas. So this picnic table has come from Replas. They make a range of different outdoor products, benches, tables, bollards. So I know all the bollards in front of Optus Stadium are made of the soft plastics through Replas as well. So yeah, it's quite solid, quite sturdy. We did the calculation, and this picnic table alone, it's made up of about 40,000 pieces of soft plastics as well. If anyone wants to learn more about the Red Cycle program, you can check out the Recycle Right website. We've got a video uploaded. We did a webinar with Red Cycle. So it's about an hour-long webinar. It's really interesting if you want to learn more about the program. Just going to tie my shoelace. But yeah, we are in the community garden. So we use this space to showcase, how you can be more sustainable at home. Maybe if you want to set up a worm farm or a compost bin. If anyone already has a worm farm or a compost bin, pop it in the chat, let us know.
Natalie's asking, where can one buy the furniture? It's online.
Right, it is online. Otherwise, there is an outlet in Welshpool that Replas have. So, yeah, sorry, we got a noisy friend up there. Yeah, I know Replas do have an outlet in Welshpool, but yeah, try their website as well. And you can see all the different products they have. Cool. All right. So basically, we use this space to showcase how you can be a bit more sustainable at home if you like. Lots of the garden beds that we've set up here, we've actually used old materials that were on site. So we've upcycled them. Like these truck tires here, we've made into garden beds. This garden bed over here, it's made of old railway sleepers. The artwork that you can see here, it's upcycled artwork. So it was just old scrap metal that the artist Martin Jane used to repurpose, which is really cool. You see there's a grass tree over here. And of course, we've got a couple of worm farms set up over here. We've actually used an old fridge and converted the old fridge into a worm farm. The old fridges are great. The worm farms, they already have that inbuilt insulation, so it can maintain a nice temperature for the worms. Thank you. So of course, the worms will be at the bottom. They don't like being in the light for too long. But we've all seen what the red wigglers look like, I'm sure. Yeah, they're all going to be at the bottom today. We do need to give them a bit more food though. So basically the red wigglers are pretty amazing. They'll eat half their body weight in one day. So it's the worm farms, they're a great alternative to putting your food scraps in the bin in the first place. So things like fruit and veggie scraps or shredded paper is really good to put in the worm farm. We don't want shredded paper in the recycling bin. It's too small. It'll fly everywhere at our facility. The great thing about worm farms is the worm tea that they produce. So it's like a natural fertilizer that you can add to your garden. You've just got to dilute it down. So for every 1 part worm tea, add 10 parts water. So just dilute it down before you add it to your garden.
Susie's asking, where do we recycle cork, like wine bottle corks?
Okay, good question. I don't know the answer off the top of my head. There might be some drop-off points around.
Probably artists, like people would use it, or schools.
Yeah. I mean, ask your local schools. You've got large quantities of them. Collect them up. Also, I would be utilizing programs like the Buy Nothing groups on Facebook. So most suburbs will have their own Buy Nothing group on Facebook, and basically you can put up items for free, and someone will come in and pick it up from your house. So yeah, items like cork that can definitely be upcycled, maybe into a cork board or all sorts. I definitely recommend doing that. But I can have a look and see if there are any official drop-off points around Perth, for sure.
And Jackie's asking, where are the air holes, I presume, for this worm farm?
The air holes, basically, it's not closed 100%. So it's slightly open. And then there is a drainage hole as well. Yeah. Cool. We've also got a compost bin tumbler example just in the corner there. So yeah, let us know if anyone who has a compost bin already. So setting up a compost bin, it's pretty easy to do, pretty easy to maintain. If you've got a shady spot in the garden, especially, you don't want it to dry out too much. You just want them to be, moist. You don't want to saturate your compost with water. But yeah, you can add things like fruit and veggie scraps. You can add things like shredded paper, cardboard, soiled pizza boxes. You can add that to your compost. Basically, you want to make sure that you've got the right ratio. It's like baking a cake. So for 1 part wet items or green items, so things like your food scraps, you want to have 3 parts dry items or dry materials. So things like dried leaves, shredded paper, and cardboard. You want to have more of those materials in, and that'll speed up the composting process. You want to try aerate your compost as well. If you can give it a mix, at least once a week or once every couple of weeks, that'll speed up the composting process as well. And then, what garden in Perth doesn't appreciate a bit of compost being added to it? We have such dry, sandy soils here in Perth.
Joe is asking about what to do with out-of-date child car seats.
Okay. I believe there is a product stewardship program being implemented throughout the middle of this year. So I can try and find more information about that. So I have heard about a program that's starting up for those items. But yeah, I'll try and find out more information and send it out in the wrap-up email. All right, so we're walking through our conservation area. So when the site was built 20 years ago, they maintained about a hectare's worth of the surrounding Banksia woodland. So we also back onto Kenhurst Reserve, which is another 50 hectares of this same Banksia woodland. So the site here, even though it's an industrial site where we're processing waste, it's still used as a feeding ground for lots of the different native animals and species to the area. So we still see lots of quendas on site, the black Carnaby cockatoos coming through. You see lots of bobtail lizards coming through, and of course snakes occasionally. I still haven't seen any in person yet. We do have trained snake handlers on site.
Aren't you a trained snake handler?
Yeah, I'm one of them. So it's always nice. It's nice for the staff that they can walk through this area as well while they're at work. But it's always nice to take a moment. This is an industrial site where we're processing waste, but we're still able to work in harmony with the environment at the same time. When it comes to things like landfill and setting up landfill sites, that requires the the loss of vegetation and habitat for our local native animals. So, you know, the more that we can be recycling and composting, you know, the better outcome for our environment. That is why, again, lots of councils, we're getting away from landfill sites now and putting waste to landfill. We're going to be switching to waste to energy.
I'm just reading some questions or answers.
Yeah.
So Len has 3 compost bins. They're great.
Oh, awesome.
And
thanks, Len.
Susie has 4 worm farms and 3 compost bins.
Wow. Yeah. So that's a lot of compost bins, a lot of worm farms. That's great. Awesome. So we're approaching our FOGO processing facility now. Usually at this point of the tour, I'd be asking everyone, how does it smell? Because you can imagine, you know, at this facility, we're processing large quantities of raw organic waste every day. You know, that's lots of dog poo and cat poo coming through, and of course food waste as well. But it actually doesn't smell that bad here. It actually smells quite nice. And the reason being is these biofilters that were installed here. So these biofilters are filled with wood chips. You can actually see these piles of wood chips here. We're actually doing some remedial works at the moment. So we're changing out the wood chips, but it's the microbes and bacteria that live inside the wood chips that are working as a filter. They're eating away the odor particles. So I'll explain how that works. You can walk just a bit closer. I know the sun's right here, but you can see these big pipes that are attached to the biofilter. These big pipes are attached to the FOGO processing facility. And inside the FOGO processing facility, where all the raw food waste and garden waste is being processed, there's a negative air pressure system inside. So it's like a giant vacuum sucking up all the odor and not allowing that odor to enter the atmosphere. The odor is sucked through these pipes here and what we call gas scrubbers. So the gas scrubbers are spraying water at the odor particles. And then the odor makes its way to these pipes here, which are attached to our biofilter, which we can have a look at. So there's no chemicals that are used in the process. You can see this biofilter is actually empty at the moment. We're changing out the crate system, giving it a good clean as well. You can see the pipes on the left-hand side here. They're attached to the crate system at the bottom. So that's where the odor travels, and then it's dispersed evenly through this crate system. And then usually the wood chips would be coming up to right up to the top, right up to the brim. But you can see a big pile of wood chips on the other side there. That's how deep it is. And the odor will rise up from the bottom of the wood chips right to the top. And the bacteria and the microbes are eating away at the odor particles. So what's left is more like an earthy kind of smell. It's quite nice. But yeah, obviously the wood chips, they're organic themselves. So they will start to break down. So every couple of years, we have to change out these wood chips. We can actually sell them off to our composting partners at Pure Earth and Go Organics. So the wood chips get used again. Some of these wood chips have actually come from our green waste processing facility as well, which is really cool.
We have a question. Labels on soft plastics, do they need to be ripped off?
The labels on soft plastics. Maybe, did you mean the labels on plastic water bottles? Look, if it's loose and it's already coming off, you can remove it and take it to RedCycle. Otherwise, if the label's still on and on cans, we don't require people to take them off. That's fine. That would just be classed as minor contamination. All right, so I just wanted to touch on the landfill site here. So it's the old City of Canning landfill site behind us here. So this was decommissioned in 2005. and they can't rehabilitate the land until 2036 because the ground's quite unsteady. It's not safe to build on. Usually old landfill sites, they're used as old, recreational areas or reserves, maybe converted into a golf course. So previously they were generating energy from the methane that was being emitted from the landfill site. They're no longer doing that now. There's not enough methane being emitted. They do still have to, the City of Canning still have to monitor this site for leachate issues. So you can start walking back actually to talk about this. So for those who might not know what leachate is the liquid that forms at the bottom of a landfill site. So you can imagine all of the unfortunate items that should never have ended up in landfill, things like hazardous waste or inorganic waste, electronic waste. Over time, eventually these items are going to break down into smaller pieces themselves. And then all you need is a big downpour of rain, and that liquid that forms at the bottom of a landfill site, it's toxic, it's potent, and it can leach into our groundwater systems, into our riverbed systems, and into our soil as well. And that's what we call, leachate. So basically, we want to be getting away from landfill sites. Unfortunately, lots of the old landfill sites in Perth, they're situated right along the Swan River. Places like Elizabeth Quay, Burswood, Trinity College, Centenary Park, or Centenary Avenue. They're old landfill sites right along the river. And they're the old type of landfill sites that weren't lined. So they're essentially just holes in the ground where we've gone to bury our waste. So I think it's the City of Perth actually. They put messaging out, not to eat certain types of fish or shellfish past a certain point near the city if you're out there fishing. So if you do a bit of fishing, it's better to stay close to the coast. It's a bit more safe. I remember reading about there's about a dozen dolphins that washed up ashore near the city. They're all dead, and they did an autopsy on these dolphins, and they found all sorts of nasty chemicals and materials inside them, things like lead and mercury, arsenic. So it's very likely that these chemicals have come from the old landfill sites. So there is a law that's been put in now. No new landfill sites can be built along the Swan Coastal Plain. They have to be built inland. And of course, a modern day landfill site will have a proper layering system that can extract the leachate. And of course, they can generate energy from the methane that's emitted as well. All right, enough about landfill for now. The bottom line is landfill, it's a last resort. We want to be getting away from that, which we're going to be transitioning to waste to energy in the next couple of years. This is our waste audit facility. So I mentioned before, this is another service that Resource Recovery Group offer. So if councils are wanting to have a closer inspection of what their residents are placing in their bins, this is the facility where we do that. So for example, we could get a truck full of recycling coming from X council, from X suburb. It'll empty all of its waste into this facility, and we'll go through every single piece of waste from that truck, categorize all the different materials, work out what the contamination rates might be. And then we can feed that information back to the council, and they can use that information how they like. So maybe there's lots of soft plastics being placed in the recycling bin. So the council can use that information to adjust their communications and education to help out their residents. So yeah, that's one of the other services we offer here. In fact, all of these facilities we've been visiting, the FOGO processing facility, I will be showing a video shortly when we get back, so you can see the process. But processing FOGO, that's another service that we offer to councils. As they're rolling out FOGO, we've got the capacity for it here. So we are currently just processing Fremantle, East Freo and Melville's FOGO waste. That's about 25,000 tonnes a year, but we have the capacity to process up to 109,000 tonnes a year. So it's about a third of Perth's population that we can process here on site. So yeah, we are ready to go. We're essentially just waiting on other councils to roll out FOGO at this point. And likewise with the recycling, it's another service that we offer. So if councils are looking for somewhere different where they want to process their recycling, we are open to that here as well. Currently in Perth, there's 2 other recycling facilities. So there's the Cleanaway facility in South Guildford, and there's the Suez facility in Bibra Lake. And then there's us here in Canning Vale. In terms of the FOGO processing facilities, there's us here, of course, in Canning Vale, and the EMRC, or the Eastern Metropolitan Regional Council. They've also got their FOGO processing facility currently being constructed up at Red Hill. So they are currently processing City of Bayswater's and Town of Bassendean's FOGO waste, but they still need to finish the rest of the site to increase their capacity there. Cool. All right. Back to this camera. Awesome. So that was the live component of the tour. Hope that was okay. Just going to share my screen again. All right. So just to expand a bit on FOGO now, I'm just going to make sure I haven't missed anything. Okay, all right, so I'll start with this page here. So just a bit of an overview of what goes into FOGO. So again, it's things like your food scraps, garden organics, but also extra things like that you wouldn't normally put in a home composting bin. You can even put bones, meat and fish scraps, as well as dog poo and kitty litter. It can all go in the FOGO bin because it goes to an industrial composter. So which governments or local councils in Perth that have already rolled out FOGO? So you can see on the left, we've got the City of Melville, City of Fremantle and Town of East Freo, City of Bayswater, Town of Bassendean, City of Vincent, and soon to be, I know Cottesloe are about to roll out FOGO as well. And then you can see on the right, the 7 FOGO local government areas outside of the Perth and Peel region that have either already rolled out or are currently rolling out FOGO. So yeah, again, by 2025, all Perth councils will have rolled out the 3-bin FOGO system. That is the goal. As councils roll out that 3rd bin or convert to a FOGO system, you will also get given a kitchen caddy that you can see at the bottom here. So that's to put your food scraps in the kitchen, as well as a year's supply of compostable caddy liners that are made out of cornstarch. You don't have to use these liners. You can line your FOGO caddy or your kitchen caddy with newspaper or paper towel. Some people will just put their food scraps straight in, which is fine, especially if you've got lots of garden waste, because it all gets mixed in together. That'll absorb any moisture once you add it into the FOGO bin outside. You can see those 2 logos at the top there, compostable and home compostable. Currently, there are other compostable bags out there on the market, so you can purchase compostable bin liners from different retail outlets. but they need to have either one of these logos on the product. Basically, unfortunately, there's a lot of greenwashing that goes on. So lots of companies will they'll state that they're biodegradable, they're sustainable and environmentally friendly. Maybe 30% of their product could be plant-based, but the rest of it is still made of plastic. And it's sometimes it's not very clear, which is really annoying. So you just need to make sure that the compostable bin liners that you use have one of these logos on, and then that means that it's certified compostable to Australian standards, and it's made out of cornstarch. All right, so this is the FOGO cycle. So obviously we can purchase our food from the shops. We prepare our food at home. Food scraps go into the kitchen caddy, into the FOGO bin, which is collected by the trucks. At our facility, we receive the FOGO. We just do the initial screening and getting rid of any contamination that might be present within the FOGO material. Then we send off that raw product that's been screened to our composting partners, Pure Earth and Go Organics, for the blending and maturation process, and they make a range of bulk products and quality fine products as well. And then it can be added back to our gardens and farms as well. All right, so I'm just going to show a video now, which will cover that process. Food scraps go into the kitchen caddy and then into the FOGO bin. The FOGO bin is collected by a waste truck and transported to Resource Recovery Group's Canning Vale Centre. At the FOGO processing facility, the raw FOGO is emptied onto the tip floor. It is sent through the shredder to gently break open caddy liners to release the food content. It is then screened to remove any unwanted contamination. The trommel separates it into two piles, under 40 millimeters and over 40 millimeters. The over 40 millimeter component is left to break down for another 24 hours, sent through a picking line to remove any contamination, and then re-screened. The pre-processed FOGO is then loaded ready for transport to our composting partners, Pure Earth and Go Organics. At Pure Earth, the FOGO material is mixed with other components such as garden organics, chicken manure, and other organics. It is placed into windrows, covered, turned, and aerated for 4 to 6 weeks. The material is then screened into different components and blended with other material to make a range of bulk products, including landscape mix and premium mix. When the FOGO material is transported to Go Organics, it is unloaded and then put into windrows where it is aerated and turned to allow composting at 60 degrees Celsius for 8 weeks. The compost is then screened, graded, and sorted for application. Ready-to-use product is bagged by an automated process and transported to retailers ready for sale and use. Our FOGO waste has now been composted and has gone full circle. The FOGO-derived products are great to grow veggies in the garden. Cool, I'm just going to quickly check the chat. Doesn't look like any questions have come through about FOGO yet. So yeah, if you've got any questions about FOGO or anything which is covered in that live component of the tour, feel free to put into the chat. For now, I'll just move on to general waste though. So yeah, general waste, the last place for waste. So if you're not going to take your soft plastic and plastic bags to Red Cycle at the Coles and Woolies stores, then you got to place them in your red bin or your general waste bin at home, as well as nappies, meat trays of all kinds. So even plastic meat trays, they all have to go in the general waste bin now. They had to put a hard rule on that one. Essentially, there was too many contaminated meat trays coming through. Lots of people would leave all the liquid or the blood inside the absorbent pad inside the meat tray and pop it in the recycling bin. And it, of course, that would just become a health risk and it would contaminate other recyclables as well. So they had to put a hard rule on that one. So all meat trays must go in the general waste bin, as well as hygiene products, polystyrene, unless you're going to take, again, if you're going to take your polystyrene to a drop-off point to be recycled, that's fine. Otherwise, in terms of the curbside system, it needs to go in the general waste bin, as well as clothes, shoes, and textiles, if they're not able to be donated again. There are drop-off points around Perth that you can take old clothes, shoes, and textiles that can't be donated. There is a company called Apparel, right? Yeah, Apparel. They're based on the East Coast that will accept a box of old clothes, shoes, and textiles to be recycled. But H&M as well. H&M's another one. So that's a free drop-off. They'll even give you a discount voucher if you want to drop off your old clothes that can't be used anymore. This is just an overview of what's happening with our waste stream. So we have covered this a bit in the tour, but essentially our recycling, once we've separated that here in Perth, it gets sent to overseas markets at the moment, mainly based throughout Southeast Asia, but those markets do change every 3 months because we put out for a public tender process. So they do go to a licensed operator overseas, but our glass is processed in WA. We use that for road base here. I'll talk about the waste export bans in a second though, because this is all about to change throughout the next few years. So we just saw in the video about the FOGO process, where it ends up. So once it's come here, we've got rid of any contamination, and then we send that product off to our composting partners at Pure Earth and Go Organics, where they do the final processing there. Our general waste stream, there's no sorting that takes place with general waste. So if you're going to put anything recyclable in your general waste bin, it goes to landfill, unfortunately. So our general waste, it goes to the Suez landfill site, which is 1 hour southeast of Perth. It's a modern day landfill site that's lined, and they can also recover methane for electricity generation. So the waste export ban. So this is the timeline that's been rolled out. So it all kicked off in 2020. So all the state governments, federal government, they all came to an agreement that sending our waste in its raw form to be reprocessed overseas is wrong. We need to be showing leadership in this country here. So, of course, we were already processing glass in WA, so that didn't apply for us here. Mixed plastics were banned from being sent to overseas markets last year. So we found a new market in South Australia where they do the reprocessing there. And of course, whole used tyres as well as single resin, polymer plastics, mixed and unsorted paper cardboard are also included in the waste export ban. So I did mention the federal and state governments have actually put funding into local infrastructure projects around the country. I'll send through some links because lots of these projects have already been announced. You know, we're going to see a glass refinery being built in WA, a paper pulp factory, and a plastic processing facility all being built in WA, which is really exciting. And Recycle Right. So we mentioned this a few times during the tour. So Recycle Right is the education arm of Resource Recovery Group. So we encourage and assist residents and businesses to recycle, reduce their rubbish, and buy more recycled products. It's an app that you can download on your phone if you've got a smartphone, or it's a website you can visit. And it has a really handy, comprehensive A to Z list, and it caters to all the different bin systems in Perth. Doesn't matter if you have 2 or 3 bins, we've got all the answers there. We've also got the Find My Nearest option as well. So if you're ever wondering where to take trickier, hazardous items to, you can punch in your address through the website, choose the item you're looking to drop off, and it will pull up a list of your nearest drop-off points as well, which is really cool. So the Resources Hub is also definitely worth checking out. We've got all our videos that we've uploaded there, as well as fact sheets, information sheets. That webinar that we did with Red Cycle will be there. Oh, cool. So Teresa's posted the link in. We've also, Recycle Right, we've got a volunteer program called the Recycle Right Rangers. So if anyone's interested in working in waste or sustainability and want to get a bit of community engagement experience or community education experience, I'll send through a link in the wrap-up email that will take you to our expression of interest form. So we do lots of events around Perth. We go to schools and do incursions as well. We do lots of workshops. So if you're wanting to get any hands-on experience, I definitely recommend becoming a Recycle Right Ranger. We also will organise lots of behind-the-scenes tours for our volunteer network. So, tours with other recycling organisations, and even behind-the-scenes tours at our facility here in Canning Vale. So there's lots of perks to becoming a volunteer. Yeah, all right, so I'm just going to stop sharing my screen. So speaking of events, just let me pull up this bag here. Just to help promote our FOGO compost product, this is one of the bags here. We've actually lined up a number of different events around Perth, and the next one coming up will be at the next Perth Makers Market, the end of this month. I believe it's on the 29th of May, where we'll be giving away 3 bags of FOGO derived compost. So if anyone is interested in a free bag of FOGO derived compost, definitely come down, pick one up. You just have to fill in a short survey. It takes 2 minutes to do. But yeah, definitely get amongst it. I can send through a reminder, like the link to the date in the wrap-up email as well, if anyone's interested. Cool, but that's it from me in terms of the tour and the presentation. So, we've got a bit of time. If anyone wants to ask any more questions, or if you want to take your turn your video on, take yourself off mute to just ask a question, that's also fine. Otherwise, you're free to leave and enjoy your weekend. Thanks, Jackie, and thanks, Natalie. Thanks, Alan. Len, so some soft plastics have paper labels stuck to them. They should be torn off. Yeah, if you're able to take any paper off the plastic, they don't want mixed materials. So I'm not sure. If you give me an example, that would be great. Because yeah, they just want soft plastics. They don't want any paper materials.
I think they can deal with small amounts of paper.
Right. Yeah. So small amounts of paper would be fine. But if you're talking about, say, like an AusPost bag that's mixed paper and plastic, that's too much. They don't want those bags. But the AusPost bags that are just soft plastic would be fine. Oh, okay. Yeah, labels on bread bags. That should be fine. Yeah. Can takeaway coffee cup lids go in the recycling bin? No, unfortunately not. There's too many different types of coffee cup lids. They're often contaminated as well. So there's a hard rule on coffee cups and lids. They all need to go in the general waste bin, even the compostable ones at this point. Thanks, Joe. Yeah, we do lots more tours. So generally the first Saturday of every month, we'll be doing these tours. So if you want to come along to the next one, that's fine. Or, let your family members know, let your friends know. Thanks, Jackie. So what should happen to small labels that are stuck to pieces of fruit? Oh, yeah. So the little stickers on fruit, they're actually fine to put on soft plastics, which is pretty cool. Because again, it's just a small amount. So they're fine. They're annoying that we have them in the first place, but at least there is a place for them to go to be recycled now. Thanks, Len. No worries. But yeah, for those asking about the soft plastics and Red Cycle, definitely recommend checking out the Red Cycle webinar, because it's someone from Red Cycle talking about the program. So they'll go into a lot more detail about their process. Super interesting. Thanks, Len. Yeah, they also have a comprehensive list on their website of items that are eligible or not eligible that can be collected. And you'd be surprised at the things they will accept, you know, even compost bags, soil bags, as long as they're pet food bags, as long as they're cut up into A3 size pieces. Thanks, Susie. Will there be a recording of this webinar? We didn't actually record this webinar today, so no, unfortunately not. If you're interested, if the transition Bridgetown community are interested in attending a tour, definitely get in touch. Maybe we could organise for the transition in town or the community members to attend another tour separately. Cool. All right. So if there's no other questions, I think we'll wrap it up there. But feel free to contact us through the Recycle Right site. There is a contact form there. You can ask more questions. There's a contact number as well. Awesome. All right. Thanks, everyone. Enjoy your weekend.